thank you for joining us tonight. I think there were over 1,000 people signed up to this, which still is mind-blowing, and yeah, 200 and counting have joined so far. So really incredible to have you all with us, and excited to talk you through this very long, but hopefully quite interesting presentation. It's definitely long, it's hopefully interesting. Let's see. I'm just going to dive straight into this because we've got so much to get through, and I think that's probably the best approach. So we're here tonight to talk to you about what we have sort of colloquially called SFC 2.0, which many of you will have seen the kind of fruits of externally in the shape of our new website, in which we launched about 2 weeks ago. Now that is kind of it's that's there for everyone to see, and hopefully you guys have got involved in that and checked it out and explored some of the resources. But really, what this represents, this what we're calling SFC 2.0, is what we hope is the beginning of a new chapter for SFC. And this slightly corny phrase that I used in the sort of blog post to talk about SFC 2.0 was saying, this is not a rebrand, it's a reflection. So what we've tried to do with this is kind of encapsulate and distill all the amazing things that have happened over the past year and a bit, the brilliant things that you guys have been doing across the country, and really try and capture the power and what we think is the extraordinary potential of smartphone-free childhood in this kind of relaunch. But it's not just the sort of external stuff that's changed. We've done a lot of thinking about about the next stage of smartphone-free childhood and what we can create together, and that's what we want to talk to you about today. So, yeah, this is our sort of, I guess, our goal of the session today is to help you guys understand a bit more of the thinking behind what we're calling SFC 2.0, our overall approach to kind of making the most of this magical movement, and how we're thinking about shaping it and directing it. And how you guys can get involved in your area and what's coming next. So that's the goal of this. Like I said, there's a ton of stuff to get through, so I'm going to be whizzing through this stuff quite quickly, and there's going to be a few other people speaking as well. It's quite one thing just to sort of cover off to start with is that because this is open to the whole SFC community, there's going to be a range of people on this call, and we're aware of that, ranging from people who are really, really engaged in SFC and have been here since the beginning and are doing loads of amazing things in their area and are deeply, deeply involved, right the way through to some people who are what we're calling just SFC curious. They may have heard about this on WhatsApp or on social media and are just kind of interested in this thing that they've just heard about. So we've tried to pitch this for everybody. Sorry if some of it goes over your head, but hopefully there'll be some useful things for all audiences in this. What we're going to be covering. So the sort of bulk of this is going to be part 1, 2, and 3. So our overall strategy, our approach to local organising and some new thinking we've been doing there, and our sort of latest thinking around our role in schools. So that's the bulk of this conversation. And then part 4, 5, and 6 sort of towards the end, we're going to talk a bit about our operations and funding, some future plans, and answer some of the questions that you guys asked us in the sign-up form. So just before we get into the detail of that, you might be asking, who are you? So I'm Joe, I'm the co-founder and director of SFC. This is Daisy, my wife sat next to me. And we have a team of people working together, which is still quite strange, seeing this little heads on a slide, that there's actually a team doing this, and it's really, really real, but this makes it real. So yeah, we're a team of there's 4 of us working on it full time. There's another 4 working on it part time. So yeah, so Nancy and Joe, actually, I need to give a shout out to Nancy and Joe up front in this, because they are the real unsung heroes of smartphone-free childhood. Nancy is on the call today. She's going to be speaking a little bit in a while. She's been sort of heading up all our operations, and Joe is the sort of design guru behind all the wonderful things that happen at SFC, and has been right since the beginning. Claire's been working on our schools stuff. Anisha's been doing video stuff for us. Andy is a regional leader turned regional growth guru, who we're going to be hearing from in a little bit. And we've also got India in our team, who is so new to the team, she hasn't even got a photo yet. But more importantly, like this weird, magical, wonderful, strange thing called Smart for Every Childhood really is powered by you guys, and like we're under no illusions about that, and never have been. That this is and always will be a grassroots movement powered by you guys. And there's been so many brilliant people involved in this from the beginning. We've met some incredible people, and we're constantly blown away by the things that you guys are doing all across the country. Oh, it's moving. I didn't expect it to move. So there's loads of you. And so first of all, I guess this is just like really important thank you. So again, I think this moves. Yes. So again, probably quite a few of you have heard us talk about this before, but it really is astonishing and mind-blowing seeing the sort of traction and action across the country, the passion that you guys have for this cause, and the amount of like bright, brilliant, creative, imaginative people who are just making stuff happen in their communities for the benefit of their kids and the kids in their community. It really is amazing. So thank you all for everything you've done. It's phenomenal. We feel very privileged to be kind of in a position where we're helping kind of shepherd all this energy that's out there. So a quick recap for people who maybe aren't quite so close to what we've been doing of like some milestones, and I won't just be banging on about milestones throughout this. So this thing has grown really quickly. There are now 350,000 parents in our communities across the different online platforms. There's this phenomenal grassroots momentum like that I've just been describing all across the country that's powering this thing forward. We've kind of created a proper organization. Like this is strange to say, but I mean, I think it might be a bit of an exaggeration to call us established, but like we are an actual charity and we have a team and we have a structure and we are hopefully not going anywhere. The Parent Pact, which is our biggest product, has really exploded over the past 6 months or so since we launched it in the autumn. Nearly 150,000 kids have signed up to it from over 40% of schools in the UK. The global groups, this is something that always sort of blows our minds. Like right from the beginning, when this whole thing kind of sparked to life by accident, we started getting people contacting us from all over the world saying, we want to do this in our country. We want to make this happen in places as far flung as, yeah, Brazil to Bahrain, Nigeria to the Netherlands, all over the world, every continent bar Antarctica, people have got in touch with us. And that's starting to actually happen. People are setting up their own groups. Some of them are just WhatsApp groups. Some of them are much more organized and structured organizations. But it's proof that this really isn't just a UK issue. This is a generational issue and it's a global issue. Smart and free schools, the sort of movement for schools to go smart and free is really gathering pace, and there's been phenomenal like achievements across the country on that front as well. Politicians are listening to us, but they're not really acting yet. More of that later. There's a bunch of famous names who've joined us too, and that's important not just because it's sort of fun having celebrities on your Instagram, but because when famous people who people recognize and look up to start talking about this issue, it normalizes it for everyone. And so, yeah, that's been like part of the kind of ongoing mainstreamification, we hope, of this conversation. And arguably the proudest achievement today of the whole movement is Wade's truck. So some of you might have been there in the global webinar that we ran about a year ago for these people all around the world who wanted to start smart and free charters in their countries. And there was this brilliant guy called Wade, who's from Canada, and he had sort of sports memorabilia behind him. And he had his hand up for ages, and it was a whole thing. And then we went to him, and long story short, he said he didn't know much about starting websites or social media channels or WhatsApp, but he did have a truck and he wanted to wrap it in our colors and branding and park it on the highway in Ontario. And that was going to be his contribution to the movement. So that's Wade's truck, which is still awesome. But, more importantly, and, that's a silly aside, but genuinely, like this movement that we're all kind of creating together is actually creating real change for kids everywhere. And it's amazing. And we get messages the whole time from people saying this has actually made a difference because of this movement. We're delaying smartphones. My kid no longer feels alone. And every single year of delay we see as a huge victory for us all. And that's really powerful. And we think if we get this right and we build this in the right way and everyone works together, we can continue to have a real impact for kids. And that's what kind of gets us up and gets us out of bed in the morning. So I'm just going to keep on talking and talking until I pass to someone else to talk. So our strategy, I'm going to talk a bit about like how we've been doing what we've been doing and why. So the challenge, like many of you will know, this thing started like by mistake. So Daisy and Claire started a WhatsApp group. It was just to sort of discuss this issue with between each other and with any other parents that might want to get involved. Daisy then posted about it on Instagram. It then exploded. The WhatsApp groups went nuts, and this whole thing sort of kicked off. And then we made this slightly like it was a bit. It seemed like a bit of a mad decision at the time. It now seems maybe slightly less mad, but still a little bit mad decision to sort of drop everything, quit our jobs, and just focus on trying to build this thing. And the first sort of big part of the work was go from how do we take this viral momentum and turn it into an actual sort of structured organization, something that's like long term and strategic and has a plan. And the next part of our work, we've called turning an actual thing into an impactful thing, something that feels that's universal, that appeals to everyone, something that is genuinely useful for people and provides value to people that they can actually take action with and create change with, and something that people really love and feel like they want to belong to and care about and spread and share. So that's like the overarching challenge: viral thing to actual things to impactful things. So how, like, one of the challenges with that, because it started off as this viral thing, is that there's loads of people who've got opinions and ideas about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and there's all these things coming our way and all these kind of suggestions and ideas, and many of them are brilliant. But one of the things that we had to do quite quickly is decide not just what to do, but what not to do. So we've got this kind of thing that we talk about internally as the 95-5 rule, which means that we might get 100 ideas, but we're going to have to say no to 95 of them. But 5 of them we will choose because we think they're right for SFC, and we're going to double down on them and do them as well as we can. So that's kind of been our general approach. But what it does mean is that we end up saying no a lot and being mean. So I'm sorry if it comes across that way sometimes to people when people send us like ideas or suggestions or things and we don't do them. It's not because we don't think they're even a good idea. They might be a great idea. It's just that it doesn't quite align with the way that we've decided to focus SFC. And we want to try and talk a bit more about that today, really. So everyone in the community has a bit more of an idea about how we're kind of trying to build this. So we've got something called a theory of change. This is a sort of shorthand version of a more detailed one of these, but I think it's quite important for everyone to understand how we're kind of conceptually thinking about this. So the way we see like Smart Free Childhood creating real change and making a real impact is through firstly raising awareness. So one of the things we spend a lot of time doing is thinking about how can we bring as many parents as possible into this movement, and not just parents, like anyone into this movement. We need to do, and we do that by trying to communicate in a non-judgmental way, by trying to create a really welcoming and hopeful community, by creating sort of original and shareable content with really clear actions for people to take and get involved and in more deeply in the movement. We'll be talking a bit more about that in a moment. Once we've raised awareness, the next challenge is to change behavior. And so that is all about encouraging and facilitating collective action, essentially trying to enable and support people to delay smartphones until at least 14 through education and support, through like building community and finding and offering solidarity to people, facilitating collaboration locally, and providing simple tools and tech that makes it easy for people to do that. And then if we do that well enough, then we'll start to change culture, and it'll become a bit weird to get a smartphone before 14. And that's really the goal here. We want it to become a culturally strange thing to do. And that means we have to change behavior, and that will create tipping points in communities and classes. It'll mean that parents have choice where they currently feel like they don't have choice to give a kid a smartphone because you kind of have to because all their other friends have got one. And then if we do that well enough, then our voice will become impossible to ignore. The government will have to take action as well. And then millions of kids will have healthier, happier childhoods. That's the idea. Obviously, this is a very like shorthand way of describing that, but hopefully that's a useful kind of context for everyone. And we sum this up in like this core idea. It's in big letters at the top of our website, which is called United for Childhood. And that is because we don't see Smartphone Free Childhood as a campaign in a typical sense. It's actually like a cultural shift. This is a people-powered movement. It's created by all of us. It's for all of us. And everything we do is kind of filtered through that lens. Like, does this add up to does this feel like something that a community that is united for childhood would do? And that's at the very top level how we think about this. Really focusing on kind of cultural change and first, and then regulatory change will hopefully follow. And then there's some core principles that kind of sit underneath that. Again, I could talk about these for ages, but I'm conscious of time, so I'll be quick. We see Smart for Child as being about community, not about confrontation. It's about making progress in any way we can rather than just protesting and getting angry. It's about being united and bringing people together rather than dividing people and pointing fingers. It's about finding solutions to the problem and talking about those rather than just talking about how bad the problem is, and actually like taking action and making things happen. And yeah, fundamentally at the bottom, it's really about people deciding to make a change themselves and doing something about this problem rather than waiting for someone else to do it for them. And that's a really exciting thing to be part of. So one last sort of slightly complicated graph, and then I'm going to like whiz through some more stuff. This is sort of a summary of our theory of change, I suppose. This is how we think about the organization when we kind of think about the different work streams that we're working on. There's three things. The first one is growing the conversation, which I've talked about. This is really about raising awareness, bringing people into the movement. The second one is the grassroots side of what we're doing, involving, engaging, supporting our community. So that's empowering parents and schools. And then the third one is really a result of the first two, which is advocacy and pressurizing tech and government to create policy change. By far, like the majority of our focus is on one and two. We think if we do those two well enough, then the third one will happen naturally, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a mo. And now I'm just going to whiz through the structure of the rest of the presentation, kind of goes through those pillars. So you get an idea of how we're approaching all those key strands to our work. So the first one is grow the conversation. How do we make this issue a mainstream conversation? I'm going to talk a little bit about the different channels that we're using. Obviously, WhatsApp, SFC is famous for WhatsApp. There's WhatsApp groups all over the place. WhatsApp is wonderful, but also like troublesome and annoying, and we're very aware of that dynamic. But we also want to make it clear that like you don't have to be on WhatsApp to be part of Smartphone Free Childhood. It's kind of where it started, but it's not certainly where it's the only place where it's at now. We think it's really, really great for kind of regional, local sort of conversations to happen and take place. It's quite difficult for organizing more broadly beyond that. But we do have this quite complicated like WhatsApp structure which we sort of figured out and hacked together, where there's a regional leaders group that we create announcements in, and then we filter those announcements down to the regional leaders who share them in their local groups, who pass them down to their school groups. So it's quite an unusual setup, but there's real chaos and there's real magic in the WhatsApp community, and it's something that we always think is always going to play an important part of Smartphone Free Childhood, but it's not the be all and end all. Just wanted to quickly mention this newsletter, because if you don't want to join WhatsApp groups, if it's all a bit too much for you, we try and summarize all the key stuff in a newsletter that we share every couple of weeks. Make sure you're signed up to that. We're doing a lot of work on that at the moment as well, on how we can kind of create more custom content for everybody that is sort of focused on specific needs. We also have a leaders digest. So if you're one of the regional leaders, you get a monthly digest which summarizes the stuff that's specific to regional organizing. We're also like doing a lot of social media stuff, which we're well aware of the irony of. But if you want to build a big community, if you want to get a lot of traction in 2025, you need to be doing this. So we spend a sort of slightly bizarre amount of time doing late night Instagram posting and stuff, but that is the way of the world. Instagram's our biggest channel. I think we've got 214,000 followers on there, but there's been quite a lot of traction on that channel. And we're also on LinkedIn. If you on any of these platforms, well, please do sign up and follow us and share the fact that we're on there. Facebook, we haven't done a huge amount on yet. We're just sort of sharing what we're doing on Instagram, but we're sort of working on a strategy to try and build that channel as well. Similarly with YouTube, you've probably seen some of Anisha's recent videos that we're starting to do a bit more work on there. And we might even go on TikTok, because we think that's where we can reach an audience group that we don't currently connect with, even though TikTok's TikTok. Press and media, you guys have probably seen a load of press and media stuff. We're still part of that conversation. We kind of see it's a bit like advocacy. It's kind of an output of doing the rest well. So it's not like we've got a really clear strategy for that. We have quite a lot of experience in this the world, I suppose, but we think if we can build a big enough movement, then we're going to be part of this conversation. And then the website. So this is obviously where this conversation started. We're hoping that our new website is going to be a really useful resource for people to kind of understand the issue and get to grips with everything that we're doing, how we're doing what we're doing, why we're doing it the way we are. So please do sort of explore that because that kind of maps out a lot of our approach in detail in a way that we haven't ever done before. And now when we talk about how we communicate, I'm going to pass over to Daisy to who does a lot of this stuff. Daisy's background is in journalism, and right from the beginning, we sort of decided and realized and recognized that, particularly with this subject being potentially so divisive and controversial, how we talk about every single thing really, really matters. And there's some kind of key principles that we're thinking about constantly when we any message we put out, whether it's a newsletter, a WhatsApp message, an Instagram post, it's always at the forefront of our mind. So Daisy's going to quickly talk through some of those.
Hi. Yeah, so I think this is, like, for me, possibly the most interesting bit of all of it is how we communicate this in a way that really galvanizes people and inspires them to take action rather than sort of makes them cross and turn away. And I just need to shout out one of our advisors who's given us amazing advice from the start, Nikki Hawkins, who's a narrative framing expert, and she's done some just helped us steer us in the right direction lots of times. So yeah, the first principle, which we've had right from the start, is no judgment. There's a real risk here of dividing or blaming parents. It's a super awkward topic for people to talk about at the school gate. So we knew from the start we had to make sure that nobody felt judged and make it crystal clear that this is a societal issue, not an individual failing. We're the first generation of parents to raise kids in the smartphone era, and it's really hard. If 89% of 12-year-olds have a smartphone, that's not because 89% of parents are bad parents. It's because they've been put in an impossible position by the power of this technology. Making sure that this is a supportive community for everyone has been key to it. The second one is hope, not fear. When this all kicked off, I was working at Positive News, which is a solutions journalism magazine. And it's all about focusing on the solutions rather than the problems. Traditional news media is always about the problems, and it really switches people off and makes them feel like they've got no agency or power in the world. So right from the start, with the very first post that I wrote on Instagram, I kind of wanted to put that solutions focus on it and to make people feel like, yeah, we could do something about this. So that goes across all our content and our design. That's why you'll never see on our site a kid crying with a phone, and it's all about the aspirational of what we want for children, which is a great, fun childhood. So we focus less on stats and more on hopeful stories. The third one is about focusing on what kids are gaining rather than what they're losing. So we're always thinking about the underlying subconscious mindsets that people have about smartphones and how we can address them. So, for example, a big one is that denying your child a smartphone is cutting them off from their friends, cutting them off from their social life and connections and success. So we know, yeah, of course, it's really hard to delay smartphones, but actually the benefits massively outweigh that. So we need to really amplify that in people's minds. And reinforce the idea that this idea as often as possible and really normalize this as a positive parenting choice. We also, making this a mainstream conversation, we were really aware right at the beginning that we needed to make sure that we avoided people thinking that this is a bunch of middle-class parents telling other parents what to do. Because we know that this affects every single parent in the UK and in fact the whole world. So we've really made sure we've encouraged voices of all genders, every location, every colour and creed, that they're central to this. And this is for all parents everywhere because we're all struggling with this. Do I move it?
Okay.
Click it. The fifth principle is this is already happening. The most common pushback we get is you can't put the genie back in the bottle or a variation of that. And we think that's rubbish. We can and will put the genie back in the bottle, and the way we're going to do that is just letting people know that it's happening and it's happening everywhere, and the antidote is continual evidence to the contrary. So our job is to shout about that, show that it's possible and that you can do it. The sixth one is the clear enemy. So making sure that this doesn't become about good parents versus bad parents. We needed a clear and common enemy, which is easy, is big tech, clearly. They are the most powerful companies in human history, and they are prioritizing profit over our children's health repeatedly again and again and again. So there's a big bad guy there. We've noticed that people they don't instantly equate big tech with kind of evil bad guys in the same way that you might do with big oil. So that's something, that people see Silicon Valley as a place of success and money, and and we all obviously like our phones. So that's been a challenge for us. But we need to alert people to the fact that there's a reason why they're struggling, and that better regulation can fix it. And the last one is the principle about this being a positive movement for change. SFC kicked off because parents felt so disempowered by the addictive power of the smartphone. And the movement's all about giving parents back that power and that choice over their children's childhoods. So we need to repeatedly shout about the extraordinary fact that we're all here and we're all doing this, and how amazing is that we've all stepped into our power as active citizens. And if it was just another screen time campaign, no one would be here. So it's just amazing that it's all happening, and we need to let people know about that. And the best thing is that, unlike something like climate change, where it can feel like whatever you do, you're not making that much of a difference, it's such a tangible thing to campaign on. You can make a massive difference right now, today, in your home, in your school, or your community.
Cool. Thanks, Days. So I'm just going to keep powering on through because we've got a lot to get through. So that's our kind of raising awareness and communication stuff. But the kind of the real juice of this is empowering parents, and giving people the tools and confidence to start conversations and make a change in their community or in their family or in their community. One of the challenges with this is that we're speaking to, just like I mentioned at the start of this conversation, we're speaking to a really broad audience. So some of the people, we want to connect with everyone on this issue. So some people are unaware that there's even an issue. Some people are unsure, on the fence, or think maybe smartphones might be quite a good thing for kids. For that audience, we need to kind of support them to understand the issue and the ins and outs of it in a really kind of supportive and open way, and right the way through to the most engaged parents who really need support to help grow and spread the message in their community. And they're quite different mindsets and they're quite different needs. And we've kind of been on a journey with it. So it's like the first website that we built, by the end, it was and comprehensive is not quite right, but there was quite a lot of stuff on there just because we've been kind of reacting to the demand in the community from parents for what people really needed, like creating resources, like presentations and posters and flyers and documents and stuff, all in response to what parents were asking for and needed. And the evolution of that, this SFC 2.0, is us taking a step back and saying, okay, who are our key audiences? What do they need most? What would have helped us a year and a bit ago? And how can we best help support the community to create local change? And this headline is really important. This whole thing is built to be used, not admired. It's not just a fancy looking website. We're trying to create tools that can help people create change. So whizzing through some of the things, again, hopefully some of you guys have seen this stuff on the site already, but we've got a whole really comprehensive bank of the biggest questions that we know that parents have been asking us over this past year, and we tried to answer them in a way that's in line with all those principles that Daisy was just describing. We've got some really, hopefully quite comprehensive tools, presentation templates, like printable flyers, posters, Canva templates, MP letter tools, school organizer guides, loads of stuff that's going to be really useful for people on the ground. We've also done some work collating all the kind of links and best documentaries and podcasts and books and articles that people have been sharing around the WhatsApp group and put them all in one place. We call it SFC Selected because we know that's something that people really want. And a new thing that we've developed is things called playbooks. So we've only got 2 live on the site. One is a guide to holding a panel event, which was put together with Sarah and the team in SSC Brighton and Hove, who are brilliant. And we've also got a new Meeting Your MP playbook, which is quite a detailed guide to holding a successful MP meeting. And we're also going to very soon be launching quite a comprehensive school organizer playbook, which is hopefully going to take people on a journey from like, I don't quite know what to do in my school, to build momentum, to like getting loads of Parent Pact signed and it being a really like live conversation in your school community. So that is quite a neat segue into this idea of local organising, which is really where the magic happens. So yeah, as I've sort of touched on a few times, the real beauty of smartphone free childhood is that this is happening across the country, and so much of our thinking is just like, how do we provide the tools and the resources that are going to amplify that and maximize the chance of success of those conversations, whether it's communications or resources or any of the things we've been talking about. Many of you will be aware, but some of you might not be. We have this model called the regional leader model, and essentially that is there's a group of like 200, maybe 250 people who are regional leaders who are doing great things all across the country and kind of leading the change in their area. And again, the sort of the support and the tools that we've created for these people have been done kind of on the fly, and we've been evolving it all. But we do monthly webinars. We've got a Notion like sort of wiki page of resources. We've got a Google Drive full of useful stuff to help people take action. We do a monthly digest newsletter. We've got regional microsites. Again, all these things are just us kind of going, okay, what's going to be most useful? How can we make this easier for people? And so far, that kind of process has kind of worked, and that this kind of light centralized structure from us, like some tools and templates and guidance, introducing people to others trying to do the same thing. You add brilliant, motivated, passionate, energized people to that, and actually amazing things happen. And it's really been extraordinary. Like we can't say it enough. Like some of the sort of the talent and the skill and the determination of the parents in our community and making stuff happen on the ground is really phenomenal. And people are doing things that we never even thought of that are incredible. And so that's kind of working. And we're getting lots of great feedback. We did a survey of regional leaders a month or so ago, and this was one quote that really stood out. If you ever felt the urge to do more, to contribute to something greater, to be part of the conversation and help shape the future for our children and society, this is it. What an amazing thing to say. That was really heartwarming and lovely. But it's not all peaches and cream. We also realised there are quite a few people who don't really know what the hell to do. They kind of like the idea of a smartphone-free childhood. They're really on board. They kind of want to make some change happen in their school, but like it's just not that clear what to do next. So we've been really clear as part of kind of SFC 2.0 that's underneath the hood. We need to improve the regional organisation and coordination. So it's important, yes, the tools and resources that we can make a big difference and help people, but they're not enough alone. We really need better systems and coordination and guidance for local organisers. And so we've been doing a process of learning and listening and strategizing around how best to do that. At which point, this is a good point to hand over to Andy. So Andy, I'm going to introduce very quickly. Andy came to us as a regional leader for Buckinghamshire in, I think, January. Andy first got in touch with us. It's all quite recent. But Andy shared some documents that he created to start the process of building a community of support for SSC in his school. His documents were excellent. We started talking, and then he started sharing, doing more and more work and getting deeply involved in it. And it turns out that Andy has a very impressive CV that's very relevant to what we're doing. He's built a big tech company, not big tech, capital B, a large tech company, specifically that's focused on helping organizations scale through referrals and organic growth. And so to cut a long story short, Andy's brilliant, and he is now doing some, as well as his work as a regional leader in Buckinghamshire, he's doing some work for us, helping us shape the sort of structure and strategy for regional organising for SFC. And I'm going to pass over to Andy to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you, Joe. And yeah, thank you for painting me as the enemy as I walk into this. I've been on a great journey with Smartphone Free Childhood. As Joe said, I started as a school organiser in December, managed to get our school to a point where 50% of the parents had signed the Parent Pact, and then couldn't help but go on to be a regional organiser, because I think, like many of us, that once you get into this, it becomes deeply rewarding, both seeing the impact and feeling part of the community. And that's what I'm so excited about, scaling faster. And that speed is really, really important, because I think we have a window with Smartphone Free Childhood where we have momentum, we're like It's something that's new and fresh and being talked about. It's in the news a lot, and we can really seize that momentum to grow as fast as we possibly can this year. And over time, it will get harder. We will become less fresh. And so the more we can do in this next 12 months, the more impact we can have, the more we can get to that cultural shift quicker. And the way we do that is through organisation. And so I'm absolutely passionate on how we can organise to achieve success as quickly as possible. Now, we've been talking about organising locally. Up to now, we've kind of talked about three things. We talked about engaging with parents, engaging with schools, and engaging with local governments. And it is true that we've been doing all those things, but I think it's really important that we recognise the most important of those are parents. It is parents that drive the societal change by changing how they parent their children by delaying smartphones and social media. Schools are important, like they need to create a space for the parents to make those decisions, and local government can create guidelines that make it easier for the schools to change their policies. But the fixation when we're thinking about organising for smartphone-free childhood is parents. And the holy grail of smartphone-free childhood is the Parent Pact. It is the magic that this whole organisation was created on. And really, like what I see smartphone-free childhood is social coordination leading to that cultural shift that Joe was talking about. And the Parent Pact is how we do that. And every signed pact is the most powerful sign that we've won the hearts and minds of a parent, that we've earned their trust and commitment. That has a real long-term impact, much more than the school-imposed ban. It's 24/7, 365 days of the year until the child reaches the age that the parent's ready to do it, not just during school hours. And so we are fixating on how can we drive as many parent pacts over the next year as we possibly can, because that's what leads to the smartphone-free childhood. That said, like clearly, the pact is more powerful for primary age children. We are in the primary age children, which is the majority of the parents that have engaged with smartphone-free childhood. We think about 85% of parents who've engaged have primary age children. We want to be pushing that pact as hard as we can. The ambition is to be able to send kids up to secondary schools smartphone-free, and then the work in secondary schools, like the pact just does not work. Like there is a reality that 95% of parents have given their kids smartphones in secondary schools today, and it is very hard to take a smartphone from a child. And so there it is about engaging school leaders to create an environment where it still frees up parents to make that decision so that their children are not in the minority and there's no requirement to have a smartphone either to go to school or to be in school. And we're doing lots on how we engage schools, which Nancy will talk about in a second, that is like really in keeping with what Daisy was saying about our ethos. The key to driving the pact is the school organizer. The people who are organising in our schools, and I hope there are many of you on the call today who are school organisers, you are the change agent. You are the people who are driving the success of smartphone-free childhood. And it's you that has the capacity to facilitate the conversation that will actually go on to change the hearts and minds in a school. Like no one else can do this. We can't do it from outside. You can't send in external people to try and win over those hearts and minds. The school can't impose it. They can do a ban, but they're not going to win over the hearts and minds. And so parents have to lead the way. And so we are fixating on how we can find school organisers, how we can make a use as successful as possible, as quickly as possible, and then how we can help you or ask you to help us find more school organisers, because that ultimately is how we dictate how fast we can grow this grassroots movement. And so a lot of what we're doing is about school organisers. We are also, as Joe said, trying to get a bit more structured in how we think about the different roles. And this is not because we think everyone wants a title. In fact, I know many people don't want a title in this, but because it will help us to help people as we recognise what they are doing and the roles they are playing. So we talked about school organisers. They are critical. They start the conversation schools, start the WhatsApp group, drive the surveys, drive the talks, and then really push the parent packs. To the left of them, the active supporters. The way we think about this is that within a school, once you start a conversation, you get a lot of supporters. You get a lot, hopefully, you get a lot of people who are willing to sign the parent pact once you start to get momentum. But there are a subset of those who are really happy to be more active. They are happy to have the conversations at the school gate. They are happy to help you organise the events. And really importantly, they are happy to message their class WhatsApp groups and promote the parent pact and any communication from the school organiser, because those channels are absolutely critical. And the most successful schools always have active supporters in every single class. So we are going to look to see how we can do more to support active supporters, because they're playing a critical role. Once we go from school organisers, but up to now, there's only been regional leaders. But the reality is many school organisers get to the point where they've achieved success in their school. And then the next step is, hang on, this isn't enough. Like, I can't just be the only primary school in my area that have done this, because once my child goes to secondary school, like, there's no other primary school kids who are going to be in the same boat, and the secondary school is not necessarily going to have the right environment. And so they immediately moved to, okay, I want to do this on a multi-school level. It's exactly the journey that I went on as a school organizer. And typically they want to do it in their local area. So it's not as big as the regions that we've been working at. It's typically a hub. When we think about a hub, they can be defined, they're defined in different regions in very different ways. But as we're thinking about standardizing it, typically we're thinking about the size of a parliamentary constituency. So that's about 100,000 people, about 5 to 15 secondary schools, and 30 to 50 primary schools. And that's a really nice size group of heads that you can try and move in the right direction. So you're creating an environment where they are willing to all come together and go smartphone free, like as a community. So the hub leaders are critical. They help to find the school organisers, to make the school organisers successful. They might do some speaking at events. And then they feed into regional leaders who are running the regions that we have today. They are really, really important people. Many of the people who've been doing that role have been doing it from the very early days and making a massive difference. And they are the liaison with HQ. They are helping to set up the hub system and to find the hub leaders. They are making the hub successful and sharing best practice. And we hope that this structure will allow us to fixate on what each of these people needs so that we can make them successful. Two important caveats. I've talked about each of these roles like it's one person in each place. It's not. Like, preferably it's at least two, because one, it's lonely being on your own, and it's a lot more fun if you can do it with someone else. And two, we recognize that everyone is doing this as volunteers, and life gets in the way sometimes, and you just need to have other people that you can lean on if you get particularly busy in your work life or personal life. Also, you don't have to just wear one hat. Like, I wear 3 of these hats. I'm a school organizer, a hub leader, and a regional leader, and that's totally fine. What it means is I'll engage with SFC in all of those capacities, and I'll be receiving things that are helpful to me in each of those capacities. And then I won't go into this in detail, but effectively what we're trying to do is map out what everyone is doing as they're experiencing these roles. And this is an example for a school organizer where we've mapped out the activities. Now, not every school organizer will do every activity or in this order, but typically these are the activities that we see as leading to success. There's already been some really good resources that we've lent on, which are the white boxes. We've been working on the green boxes of what we can do. So you can now sign up on smartphonefreechildhood.org as a school organizer, so that we know you're a school organizer and we can help you along the journey. We're creating that playbook that Joe referred to, that'll be out in a couple of weeks. We created that objection handling guide, because when you first think about being a school organizer, there's a lot of, I don't know how I'm going to answer difficult questions. That guide should help. And then we're also looking forward and thinking about how we can help more, which are the yellow boxes, which include things like, can we create a speaker pool for a region? Because some potential school organizers are really worried about the public speaking bit. So let's just remove that worry. Let them do the organizing, but not the speaking. We think about how we can make every school meeting or parent meeting hybrid, because it's really important they're in person, but we know that hybrid meetings get about 5 times the engagement as a just in-person meeting. So if we want to grow this faster, we need meetings to be hybrid. So we're doing all this thinking at the moment. We're working on it on all the roles. If you have specific things that you think would help any of these roles, please email community@smartphonefreechildhood.org so that we can get your feedback and think about how we can improve things. And then just to close this off, why does this all matter? Well, because if you put numbers behind this and you look at a situation where typically it takes 3 months for a school organizer to hit success in their school, and then they think about sharing it with other school organizers, that takes about 3 months. They talk to 2 school organizers, and they manage to recruit one of them as a school organizer in a different school, then that will result in good growth in the Parent Pact. We're about 145,000 now. Over the next 12 months, that will get us to 243,000. So, we'd continue to grow but that is not the explosive growth that we need to see. If you can shrink the time, so we can make school organisers successful in 2 months, we can ask them to speak to other parents, to recruit them in other schools, and to get to more of them and to make them more successful in converting them. Like that would take us to over 1 million packs signed in the next 12 months. And that is the level of ambition we have at Smartphone Free Childhood. We need to be seizing this moment and driving to 1 million packs as fast as we can. And so we will be doing everything we can to do that. And just as a call to action or a call to arms at the end of this, the number one thing, if you can do anything to help us, is please have conversations with other people and ask them to consider being school organisers. If you are already a school organiser, on the next page, you'll see that we now have the ability to sign up to be a school organiser. That's not just for new people. If you're already a school organiser, please do sign up to that. It will mean that we can communicate with you and help you and provide useful materials to you. And if you're talking to potential school organisers, there is now a wealth of information that is really, really helpful on the site, whether it's just a page on how to become a school organiser. There's a quick start guide, which kind of is how do you do it in two pages. There's the playbook coming soon, which will be a real reference that someone can go to figure out exactly how they want to do it. Just lean on those resources because they are getting better and better, and we're really trying to solve all of the problems that we've seen people having over time. With that, I'll hand back to you, Joe.
Thank you, Andy. And yeah, thanks for mapping it out so clearly. And yeah, 1 million packs, that's the goal, guys. That's what we're driving towards. I'm just conscious of this was kind of inevitable, but we're probably going to run over a bit. I thought I'd just give a flag, a little warning that we're going to run over a bit because we've got a lot to get through. So we will be sharing a recording if any of you need to drop off at 9:30. It'll probably go for another 10 minutes, I imagine, past then, but we'll be sharing a recording so you can watch on catch up if you so wish. So the next part of that, if you go back to that sort of circle thing that I was talking about earlier with the 3 strands, the grow the conversation, empower parents and schools, and then advocacy is the third one. So now we've done empower parents in a lot of detail. I'm going to talk about empowering schools because they are quite separate. And we've done a lot of thinking about that recently. So why teachers and school leaders matter. So they really are, like, as Andy said, like our core focus with SFC is about behavior change amongst parents, but teachers and school leaders are absolutely central to the movement, and they're potentially the greatest agents of cultural change because of their position in community. So not only are they on the front line, like dealing with the impacts of this issue day in, day out, and a lot of like teachers and school leaders are fully on board with this because they've seen the consequences over the course of their career, and particularly the last 5-10 years of smartphones' impact on childhood. Obviously not all teachers are, but there's a very receptive audience in general. But more importantly, they're in this unique position to influence parents, to influence young people, and to influence communities. And so their role as kind of change makers in communities is really significant. So we've done quite a lot of thinking about recently, like about SFC's role in schools. We've spoken to hundreds of teachers and school leaders. We've listened and we've tried to done a lot of thinking about what teachers and school leaders want, but also what role we want SFC to play in this picture, and sort of relating back to those kind of our sort of ethos and principles that we were talking about earlier on. So some of the key things that have become obvious are that we still absolutely 100% categorically believe in the importance and significance of schools being smartphone free. But every school has different dynamics and challenges, and school leaders know their school community better than any outsider ever will. We obviously, this is really obvious, but teachers and school leaders are incredibly busy. They're inundated with bureaucracy and people telling them things to do and what they should and shouldn't do. And actually the last thing that they need is another organisation telling them that they're doing something wrong or they're not conforming with how they need to be doing things. And in order to have like the biggest and the most long-term sustainable impact on a national level, we believe that as SFC, we need to really meet teachers and school leaders where they're at and like understand their context and their situation and support them wherever they are. So we've developed this new platform called the Smartphone Free Childhood Schools Network, which is a supportive community for school leaders working together to create change wherever they are on their smartphone free journey, whether they're just kind of interested and want to learn more, or they're a pioneering head who wants to spread the message. We want this to be just like it is for parents. We want this to be a smartphone-free childhood to be a place where everyone can find something that's relevant to them and then can go off and take action and help build the movement in the way that works for them. So the biggest shift is that you guys will probably, a lot of you will have been aware of the Smartphone Free Schools project that we launched 6 months or 8 months ago or something. And that was really about like pushing for smartphone free school policies, which, as I said, we still 100% believe in that overarching goal. But the shift is towards, rather than saying we think you should go smartphone free and these are the specific policies that you should adopt, we want to support teachers and school leaders to become change makers, however works for them, whether they're a head or there's the teacher in the class who wants to raise the issue with their students and with their parent body. So yeah, our aim is to support teachers and school leaders with resources, support, and community solidarity for wherever they are on the journey. And I'm actually going to pass over to Nancy, who's been doing a lot of the sort of operational work and figuring out behind the scenes of the Schools Network thing, just to talk a little bit more about, in practical terms, what this Schools Network is.
Hi everyone. So like Joe says, we know that teachers are really on the front line along with families. They're seeing firsthand all the issues that kids having smartphones too young are having. And we really need them to be our allies in this. But we also know that they are incredibly busy. My husband is a teacher in a big comprehensive school in Ipswich, and I see every day how much pressure they are under. And so we wanted the network really to be something that had a very low bar to entry, that was open to everybody, a welcoming place, totally free to join, with resources that are free and easy to use. And it's really for everybody, no matter where they are on their journey of becoming smartphone free and engaging their community on this issue. Our ambition is really huge for the network. We want every single school in the country to be represented in it. And we're going to be the #1 forum for advice on the issue. It's already got thousands of teachers in it, and we haven't even begun. We've seen over the past year how useful it is for school leaders to hear from other school leaders who really understand the challenges and the benefits of policy change and engaging their community on this issue. We're really proud and grateful to all of our amazing ambassadors who are supporting the School Network. They are inspirational secondary and primary heads who have taken action already. And seeing a real transformation in their schools. So they're going to be sharing some of their successes and learnings in webinars and drop-in sessions for members of the School Network. So a little bit about what's to come for members. If you know a teacher or are a teacher who's even a tiny bit curious about why or how to change your policy or how to go about engaging parents on this issue, you don't have to reinvent the wheel anymore. We've made tools so you don't have to start from scratch. Working with teachers, we've put together policy examples, case studies, template letters to share with parents, presentations, ready-made assemblies for kids of all ages, made with kids themselves. We've looked at the school calendar and found all the sweet spots for teachers to engage with parents, open evenings, new starter days, offer weeks, and we've built a calendar of resources around that. So it's really going to be a place where teachers can come back again and again to find exactly what they need, what they're looking for. It's a two-way thing, the network. Teachers have told us what they've done, what's working and what's not. They're giving us lots of brilliant ideas, like one teacher's advice to buy more table tennis bats and skipping ropes because soon your kids are going to want to start playing again at break times. And we're putting those into simple step-by-step tips for other people to use and share. So we just encourage you all to send your teachers, or if you are a teacher yourself, just head to the link on the website to join the School Network. These are just a few of the things you'll get: newsletters, webinars, Zoom drop-ins for asking questions and sharing ideas, some killer resources, an awesome logo to show you're part of it, and lots of chances to shout about your success.
So thank you, Nancy. There's one sort of final call to action slide there. Please go and like tell your teachers and school leaders about this. Like Nancy said, it's free, everyone's welcome, and we want to get like even if you're your teachers or school leadership are sort of not fully convinced by this, we hope the schools network can be a place to help persuade them. So please do send them our way. There's a sign up form on the website. This is very early stages of this, but we're really excited about what's to come, and we think it can have a big impact. Right, next thing, we're sort of at 9:30, so I'm going to try and whiz through this as quickly as possible. The final piece of that spinny jigsaw thing is pressurizing tech and government to do more to protect our kids. So as I sort of hopefully made quite clear at the beginning, we believe that like culture change comes first, and that will lead to regulatory change. Our real focus is on culture change, because we think regulatory change will come off the back of it. But that said, like far tougher regulation is 100% required to protect all kids. This can't be an issue that only parents who are members of our community or children whose parents are members of our community get to be protected from. It needs to be across the board, national, global. And actually, like the SFC community it has got increasing influence in policy and political circles. We want to make sure we capitalize on that. Because where citizens lead, governments will ultimately follow. So this debate has shifted. I think it's important to remember that. We'll talk a bit about the Safer Phones Bill in a minute, and that was a bit of a disappointing conclusion ultimately. But thanks in part to this community, the political debate has shifted over the past 12 months. It was a kind of niche thing, and there was a few MPs that were sort of wanging on about it, and everyone thought they were a bit wacky. And now, like, there are MPs of all parties that are like are sort of deeply interested in this and believe in this cause. And in fact, all major parties are exploring like policy approaches to try and address this situation. One of the Safer Phones Bill second reading, one MP said that she'd had more emails about this issue, basically from the smartphone for childhood community, than any other issue since she became an MP. So that your voice is getting heard in political circles, and even Chris Bryant, the Labour shadow tech minister, I think, he stood up at the end and gave a speech, and he basically said, we're not ready to do anything on this now, but it's a kind of question. It's a question of when, not if. So further regulation is inevitable eventually. But the Safer Phones Bill did get watered down, but it put the debate on the map put the issue on the map in Westminster. And yeah, you guys played a phenomenal role in that. Over 60,000 letters were sent to MPs. There were hundreds of mentions of smartphone free childhood in Parliament. It was quite a surreal thing. But yeah, at the moment, I guess the kind of temperature check on where the Labour government is at the moment is that they're not ready to lead on this. There is a number of sort of theses as to why that might be the case, but you don't need to be a political scientist to understand that like big tech's kind of scale and wealth is like important and central to, or could be an important part of the Labour government's growth agenda. They talk a lot about the need to implement the Online Safety Act before doing anything else. And then there's this other sort of fob off excuse that they need to wait for more evidence before being able to act. But whether any of those are the case or a combination of all of them, the fact is the pressure is building, and yeah, further policy change is happening. We feel like it's inevitable. But in very, very simple terms, we feel like the bigger that we can build this movement, the bigger the influence we're going to have. And our role is not necessarily to sort of prescribe specific policies. It's actually just to demonstrate that there's huge demand for something to change. But you guys can play a really important role in this, and actually local organising, just much like with the overall vision for SFC, is really key to influencing government, because the more that MPs understand how much this issue matters to people in their constituency, the more the pressure that we can put on that they will put on the government to actually create change. So letters are great. They make a difference. We've got a new tool on our website to be able to contact your MP. Meetings are really, really important. Like they make such more of an impact than sending a letter. And you don't have to be an expert to hold a meeting with your MP or hold a really impactful meeting with your MP. You just have to have a personal story. You just have to have a personal kind of connection to this issue and communicate how much this matters to you. And we've got a new playbook on our site that we mentioned before that kind of takes you through the process of holding a successful MP meeting and maps out some different kind of policy prescriptions as well, or possible policy options. Again, we're not prescribing what the answers are. We're just saying that these things that governments could do, and we want you to raise them with ministers. So that's like the policy stuff, and I'm going to whiz through a few questions around our operations and fundraising, because we do get some questions about this. So we are set up under an organisation called Prism the Gift Fund, who have charitable status, and we sit underneath their charitable umbrella. So what that means in their language is that we're part of something called their collective fund. So essentially it means that we benefit from full charitable status, full charitable oversight, but they just provide the kind of legal and financial pipe work to enable us to do our work. It's quite complicated setting up a charity. There's a whole load of like legal and legislative and governance hurdles that you have to jump through. When we were setting up in the early days, because we were building the plane whilst it was flying, we needed a solution to this problem very quickly. And this is a kind of plug and play solution. They're a really established organization. They've been going for over 20 years, and they've helped, I think, 500 or 600 grassroots movements like get set up as mini charities, basically. So it's kind of a structure that's specifically designed for like early stage growing organizations. And it means that like they deal with that, with the kind of complexity of managing the charitable infrastructure. They keep us compliant with all the regulations, and we can focus on doing what we do best. Funding wise, so all the work that we've been doing has been made possible by some like particularly like wonderful guardian angel donors who sort of stepped up in the early days and said they love what we're doing, how can we support? And we had some like detailed conversations with these guys, and there's been a couple of family offices who've given us the funding to really push this, and a number of individual donors who have got in touch and contributed to the cause as well. We've now, many of you will have seen that we've also launched like community donations on the website as well. So any of you, if you feel ready, willing, or able, we definitely don't want to put anyone under any pressure to do this. But if you do want to contribute to us continuing to do this, then you can now do that on the website, whether it's a monthly or a one-off donation. And really what we're trying to do here is build a sustainable organization so we can keep growing, keep supporting the community, and keep spreading this message. In terms of where the donations go, like hopefully this presentation and conversation tonight gives you a good idea of how rigorously we're trying to approach this whole issue. And so, you know, all the work that we're doing is supported by these donations, building products and tools, creating resources, equipping families and schools, and trying to build this groundswell. More specifically, we were breaking down the different cost bases, I suppose, and we've got our team, we've got our tech and our systems, and we've got legal and governance. The majority of our expense goes on our team because we do everything ourselves, even the website and the brand and the relaunch. We did it all ourselves, apart from the back-end build, which was done by an agency that we got a really good deal on because the guy who runs it as an SFC dad, which is really cool. But we do all the strategy, we do all the product design and creation, the brand, the comms, the content, operations, advocacy, partnerships, community management. That's all done in-house. And essentially, in order to hopefully keep growing this and building this, we need really good people to do it. So we do take a salary to do this. It's a lower salary than what we were earning before, but we've got to keep the lights on, and everyone who's working for us takes a similar approach because we're all super passionate about building this. And yeah, long term, like we really want to have long-term impact. We totally, like Andy's point is really, really key, that like now's the time to push this. That's why we're putting so much energy into trying to get the foundations in place and to grow this into something, or to build the foundation so that we can build a sustainable organization. But you know, at the moment we've got enough funding to continue for somewhere between 6 and 9 months at our current kind of rate of expenditure. But fundamentally, like to fundamentally like change the culture around kids and smartphones, we know it's going to be a long game. The next year is crucial, but it's a long-term mission. So if you have any, if you know anyone who might be interested in contributing to philanthropists or family offices or anything like that, then please do put them in touch. We would be appreciative of that. What's next? So there's a lot going on. Again, hopefully you guys have got a sense that there's quite a lot going on. But we've got some cool stuff coming up. So really, this whole SFC 2.0 thing that we've been talking about is all about trying to build the foundation so that we can take this thing mainstream. And we think we've got SFC into a place where those foundations are strong. We've got a clear strategy. We've got this like clear organising model. We've got a strong and growing team. We've got an amazing community. Our comms and brand are on point. We've got some really key products. We've got like, pretty tight operations. And we're starting to build out our fundraising model as well. So really, quite a few people, they ask us, so what are you going to do next? What's the next thing? And like the simple answer to that is just doing the same thing, but doing it better, trying to reach more people and just building this momentum, because we feel like the foundations are in a really good place. That said, we've got some cool stuff going on. And yeah, I wanted to sort of nearly finish now, but I do want to reiterate this. This is the goal. How quickly can we get to 1 million parent packs? If we get to 1 million parent packs, then everything starts to change, and particularly the political stuff. We would genuinely be impossible to ignore if 1 million parents have made this decision sort of behind the government's back to change this, then I think that would be incredibly significant. But also just the number of children's lives that we would have helped have a positive impact on would be phenomenal. So that's the goal. And we've got some exciting new projects coming up. So one really cool thing that we've been working on is a Talks partnership with an organization many of you will be familiar with called Papaya. So talks are one of the things which we constantly get asked about. And we get an email every day asking for someone to give a talk in their school. Given that demand and given our experience with talks and how important it is to have in-person conversations about this stuff and how game-changing those moments can be in the sort of journey of a school community for someone coming in and giving a talk, or a parent stepping up and giving a talk themselves, we knew that we needed to do something in this space. And yeah, long story short, we have developed a partnership with Papaya, where we are helping them with their sort of strategy and brand and providing some funding for them as well, and just generally helping them build Papaya into something that we phenomenal organization already. And Susie is amazing, and she's building a team there, and we think that she and her team can have an even bigger impact if we work together. So we're working on that. And one thing, just a quick shout out on that, there's a whole load of stuff that's going to be announced on that in a while. It's coming soon, basically. But we're speaking to Susie yesterday, and they've just have trained up a whole new load of speakers. So they unusually have got some availability. So if you want a Papaya talk in your school, check out their current website and you can book one, and they're brilliant. This is a bit of a niche one, but like we're switching for our regional leaders because of the challenges of WhatsApp. We are switching to a new platform that some of you might know about called Discord, which is essentially going to make it much, much easier to coordinate and find resources and have really useful and productive conversations between different people who are like organising on the ground locally. More of that soon if you're signed up to be a regional leader or school organiser. We're doing our first in real life regional leaders meetup in London in a few weeks' time. Hopefully there's gonna be a lot more of that coming up soon too. We're thinking quite hard about our like resources and strategy for young people. We know this is something there's a lot of demand for, but we want to do it really well in a way that's going to be really useful. So we are working on that, and that's going to be coming up at some point soon as well. We've got some exciting ideas for sort of creative campaigns and content. We love doing that stuff, and we think we can reach a lot more people with some exciting new creative campaigns that we're working on too. There's merch coming, a little hint there, a little sort of sneaky tease of an SFC t-shirt that we will be launching some merch soon just for fun. And that is the end of this monster presentation. We've got some questions. We rather than like sort of going off and like on the regional leaders Zoom meetups, we'll sort of take questions from the floor, because there's so many people on this call. We ask people to submit questions beforehand and then just analyze what the common themes were. So it's slightly sad not to be going around the Zoom room, because that's always quite fun, but it might be a bit chaotic as well. So we're just going to go through some of the big questions that we haven't answered, because we did answer most of the questions, we hope, in the 155 zillion slides that we just took you through, but there are some that we didn't.
I think one that's come up in the chat a little bit here, which I think Andy would be able to give a good answer to, is someone Helen, who has tried to get things going in her school. It hasn't really worked. She's her children are in wraparound care, so she doesn't see a lot of people at the school gate. How can she go about, Andy? What do you think about getting more support and getting things going in her school?
Yeah, I think is very dependent on each school, but certainly if you can engage a survey, that is the softest way to get ahead to engage the parents. And once you've done a survey, you can normally ask other parents to be, like, if there are other parents who would like to be an active supporter, that's going to be one of the questions. It's a standard question in the survey going forward. And then you can start to build a bit of group. The most important thing is to try and find a few other people that you can lean on, because it's a very lonely journey if you're the sole parent who's banging the drum. So I would try and recruit other active supporters to help you first and foremost. I think Helen's in Buckinghamshire, so I'm also very happy to chat, Helen, and we can talk about how we can get engagement with the head, because bringing in external speakers might be a way of getting them to do something formal.
Great, thank you, Andy. And one of the other questions quite a few people asked in the sign up was resources to show kids. This is actually one of the most common questions that we get emailed as well. Everyone wants something to show their children, to explain why they're delaying smartphones. And we've been aware that this is something we need for ages. So we're working on a video now with Anish, our video creator guy. So which is exactly that. We want to do much more work with young people about this and resources directed to young people in the future. So that will all come in time.
Do you want me to answer some of these as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't live in the UK, but we really need this in our country. Can you take SFC global? So I touched on this briefly at the beginning. We do have 32 and counting global groups on every continent barring Antarctica. But we kind of said there is a webinar that we did a year ago. There's quite a lot of new information since then, but the core principle holds, which is that we want you to copy us. We really want people to do this in their own countries, but we don't really have the capacity to be able to like support that work very closely. That said, it's always kind of at the back of my mind, and we'd love to do more to be able to support the global community. But at the moment, we have to stay quite focused on the UK. But yeah, there is a global organisers WhatsApp group that you can sign up to, and there's loads of people all over the world doing brilliant things. So try and tune into that group, have a look at the groups that are on currently on our site, and you'll get a sense of what other people around the world are doing, because there's some great things happening all over the place.
Resources for parents who have already given their kids phones and are struggling to limit use. We do have some of this on our website. Dr. Rangan Chatterjee is our ambassador, and he wrote us a guide for that. He's got teenagers, and it's really simple stuff about having tech-free zones, not having phones in bedrooms. That's the key one. That's where the harm happens. And at meal times, things like that. But we want to create a lot more resources in this vein for parents as well.
Yeah, it's really important to say that we want smartphone-free childhood, despite the name that sounds quite sort of preachy and exclusive. We really want this to be a community that is welcoming for everyone, whether you've given your kid a phone or not. And we want to provide support and useful tools for everyone, every parent out there.
Yeah, this question about if we don't give our kids smartphones, how will they spend their time, and how do we fill the gap? That's another one we hear a lot as well. Like in one sense, I think, these things have only been around for 15 years. How do children and young people fill their time for the decades, centuries, and eons before that? I think that is one thing that you could say, is that they will find ways to fill their time. And if they're not having their time, will eaten up by a smartphone. But also, I think like the main thing that young people want to do is to spend time with their friends, and we just need to. There's this whole other side of the coin of not having a smartphone, is giving our kids more freedom and independence to be with their friends and do the things they want to do. Let them out of the house and just let them go. So that's one thing I'd say about that.
We're also really conscious, and that question is something that's we think about a lot as well, and that everyone is in different situations, and we don't want to assume that people are in the same communities or have the same privileges that we might, where our kids can go outside, and the other kids might be in a much more complicated environment. And so yeah, we're very aware of ensuring that our message is universal, and not pretending that everyone can just let their kids sort of run out the door and have a needed blighted childhood. We're well aware that that's not the reality for most parents, and so we're sort of conscious and careful not to be sort of treading too heavily into that space, because we're certainly not parenting experts.
No.
Brick phones, do you want to do that one, Daisy?
Yeah, the good thing that what the best brick phones, and do any of them have maps and GPS? We've just done we've got a Wired journalist to write a big comprehensive guide for us on our website of what the best brick phones, SIM cards, watches, GPS trackers, Bluetooth trackers are. So we've got a really comprehensive list of them there, and there are brick phones which have maps and GPS on them. So definitely go check that resource out.
And there are more coming as well. That's one of the exciting things that's been happening in the last 12 months, is that manufacturers are listening and seeing the opportunity. HMD being the big ones that we have a quite close relationship with. I think they've just released one phone. They're going to release another one soon, that will hopefully start to meet more needs for parents who do want sort of hybrid phones. That's the last one.
Okay, and yeah, there's been a lot of debate about the age of the Parent Pact. We thought about it a lot and debated it, and we realized that we needed to make it an achievable goal for people. A lot of the evidence shows that age 11 to 13 is like a particularly sensitive time for kids to have a smartphone. We will probably try and wait for longer, but 14, when the average age currently is 9, 14 seems like you might be able to get there. 16 seems like miles off. So because we're trying to pitch this to parents who aren't the most engaged parents, but are the parents who, we're trying to persuade them that this is a good idea, we went with 14. And so we're not going to be raising it to 16 or 18 anytime soon.
No, we won't raise it, but we're very careful to say at least 14. So we obviously support anyone who wants to go later. But I think
social media 16, that's part 16, of it.
Yeah. But it's sort of it sort of comes back to that overarching point that hopefully you guys will have got a thread through this whole thing, which is that we want this to be a community for everyone. We want this to be a mainstream conversation, and we think it deserves to be, and we think it is. And so our one sort of way of framing this whole thing, which can be really complicated, and you can get into some really intricate, delicate policy ground on it, is just saying, all we're really saying here, guys, is just wait a couple more years to get your kid a smartphone. It's as simple as that. And if we can all do it together, it becomes much, much easier. And if we as a community can help 150,000 kids so far, 1 million kids in the future, to have waited a few more years before they got their first smartphone, then that will have made a huge difference to their lives. So yeah, it kind of sounds quite simple when you put it like that, and that's the reason why we landed on 14, because we think it's an achievable goal for parents everywhere. Right, I think we've gone way over. Inevitably, we've gone way over. But I haven't sort of seen anybody, because I can only see my own face in the corner of this Zoom thing. So maybe I've just been speaking to the void all this time. Hopefully not. But thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you for everything that you guys have done. It really is all down to you guys, the success of this thing. And we're really excited about what comes next. So thank you.